Hello, good morning to all the students and teachers and Mr. Xilag from St. Nicholas. My name is Mr. Alan Libao. I'm a teacher here in Las Vegas, Nevada. I just moved here from Chino Hills, California, which is about 30 minutes away from Los Angeles. I've been really excited about having this teleconference or this type of pen pal relationship with the students from schools here in America to the students over there in the Philippines. Unfortunately, I just moved here to Las Vegas, so I don't have my own classroom yet. I don't have my own set of students. I've been moving from school to school, so I see different students every day. That's why I can't really record anybody or have anybody speak because I don't see the same students every day. So I have somewhat good amount of knowledge about the schools here, and I'd like to answer the questions that you guys have prepared for me. I'm sorry if I mispronounce your name. Sometimes I mess up just as much as people mess up my name. So if I apologize in advance if I mispronounce your name. So I really hope I answer them so you guys get a good idea of how it's like in the schools over here in America and what similarities and differences you guys may see in your own school and compared to ours. So let's go to the first ones. Sabrina Santos. Hi, Sabrina.
Good day, sir. My question is, how is the education there in your country?
Well, the education in our country as a whole, it's always going to be a process. Just like children are always growing and learning new things, our schools are always trying to get better, to make improvements. So there's some areas where the schools may provide a better education for some students than other schools. It all depends on where you live here in America. But America definitely provides some of the best education in the world. Michaela? Is it Michaela Elise?
Hi, good day, sir. What do you use? Do you use books or tablets?
Michaela, so in the classrooms I've taught in, we usually use books for math. Definitely there's books, science, social studies or history, we use books. Those are the primary sources for learning. But there are definitely times when you use technology, whether it's computers or tablets or laptops. Students are able to utilize those to advance their learning. They usually use the internet, and there's some educational games and other resources they use online to help with their study. A question from Kelly Ubrera.
Good day, sir. Since when did you use technologies and gadgets in your studies?
So I think we've been using technology here since it's been a long time. When I was in elementary school in the 90s, I remember using computers for limited use. I think we only used it to learn how to type, and there were some games that we were able to play on, but we never used technology on a daily basis. The programs now available for students include a bunch of educational games. There's games that are actually pretty fun for the kids. There's racing games, different types of unique math and English games where students are playing, but they don't even know that they're actually practicing a certain skill or learning a new subject. So those have been very valuable for our schools today. Francis Vire.
Good morning, sir. How many hours do you spend in school?
Well, school starts at 8:40 a.m. and we finish at 3:16. So that's about 6.5 hours being at school. Students get a 30-minute lunch, and then they're in recess for about 20 minutes. So technically they're in the classroom for I want to say about 5 hours, a little bit over 5 hours of actually doing school stuff. Question from Rosenda May Leal.
Favorite subject?
She asked, "What is your least favorite subject?" Um, my least favorite subject growing up, and I think to teach, and I don't want to say it's the subject that I hate, but it's just the subject that I was never very good at, which is science. It's strange, I'm really good at math, but I'm not good at science. So it's hard for me to teach it correctly. I'm always having to teach myself first before I'm teaching a lesson in science, because I always forget all the little details. There's so much to know about science, and I'm always just learning on a daily basis. Marvane Trinidad.
How do you go to school? Walking, service, or by car?
Most students and teachers here, we're usually going to use a car because it's kind of far to get. The streets are far from each other, and there's not a lot of public transportation like buses, or I wish we had a jeepney. Jeepney would be the best to have here, but we usually use a car. Students get dropped off by their parents, or sometimes they'll do a thing where they carpool, where a parent would take several students. They'll pick up like other classmates or other friends, and so they only have to take one car. Or the school bus is also available, but not a lot of students use it. They'll probably have 1 or 2 school buses per school that carries 30 to 60 students a day. Otherwise, the main source of transportation is using your own car. Question from Allison CN Abad.
Good day, sir. What are the programs in your school?
So every school has a variety of after-school programs outside of the classroom. We have educational programs such as tutoring. We also have something called STEAM, which stands for science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, which is an after-school program where students are able to dive into deeper areas of those subjects and learn new things that we're not able to teach them inside the classroom, and they're able to do different projects and interact with other students, making these cool different projects. From Janila Botor.
How many sessions do you have by level?
I'm not really sure what sections are. We don't have sections. I don't know if that's levels. My parents told me about sections in the Philippines, but I don't remember. I'm gonna have to get back to you on that question. I'm sorry. From Chris Aguirre.
What are the latest brands of gadgets?
What are your latest brands of gadgets? So I think the most popular brand of gadgets and technology, if we had to choose, we'd probably use Apple. A lot of the more funded schools, the mayaman schools, they usually use Apple. But I also see Microsoft, Acer, Asus, and HP. Okay. Question from Arian Cruz.
Are there bullies in your school?
Arian, unfortunately, there are always going to be bullies in every school. It's been a problem in American schools that's constantly getting worse, and I think it's because of all the technology and social media where kids are able to communicate with each other without their parents even knowing. It's not just at school where kids are getting picked on or being left out and feeling bullied. There'll be students who get bullied on social media, on Facebook. They'll call people names, they'll make fun of people through Facebook. Yeah, there's just it's very difficult. It's hard to catch every single time a student is getting bullied. We only have 2 eyes. There's only 1 teacher per classroom, so there's times where it's difficult. It's something that we address to all our students and warn them about all the problems we have about bullying and what it could lead to. So it's something we're definitely trying to improve and avoid here in America. That was a good question. Thank you. Next one is from Juan Abejero.
May I ask what is your favorite subject?
My personal favorite subject, because I've always been good at it and I love teaching it and figuring out new ways to help students understand it better, but I love teaching math. Math is always been my strongest suit, and it's the subject I probably can teach the best also. Next question's from Denise Enriquez. Denise asks, how many teachers do you have per grade level? Denise, so in elementary school, from kindergarten up to 5th or 6th grade, because some elementary schools go up to 5th grade, some elementary schools go up to 6th grade, but usually you have one teacher per grade. So if you're in a 3rd grade class, you're only going to have one teacher who teaches all the subjects. Sometimes a school will have like a PE teacher or an art teacher, but for the main subjects such as science and math and reading and writing, that's going to be one teacher. But once you get to middle school, well, we call it middle school. I think in the Philippines you guys call it junior high or high school. Junior high school and high school. I think you guys call it junior high school and high school. Once you get to that grade, 7th grade and higher, then you're gonna have multiple teachers. Usually it's about 6, sometimes 7 or 8 teachers, but in an elementary school, you're gonna have only one teacher. Nathan Shearer
What is the actual location of your school?
asks, what is the actual location of your school? So I used to teach in Chino Hills, California, which is about 30 minutes away from Los Angeles. And I was teaching there for the last about 5 years before I just moved here to Las Vegas, Nevada. It's right next to California. Question from Michaela Alarcon.
Hi sir, what are the subjects do you have here?
So in an elementary school setting, we have, again, math, science, social studies, which is like history, U.S. history, world history, English, of course, which is reading and writing, and then about once or twice a week we'll have PE, we'll have art, and we'll have music. Question from Fritz Benitez.
Good day, sir. Who prepares the questionnaires in your school?
So most of the tests or assessments are already prepared by the books and the materials that we use to teach. But there's some times where teachers will work together to create a test or quiz that will accommodate certain students, and we'll do that every once in a while. But usually the tests are prepared by the standards and the state books that we have to use. Question from James Botor.
Good day sir, what time do you go to school?
What time do you go to school? I think I answered this already, but again, we start at 8:40 a.m. And we end at 3:16. There's some schools who start even earlier than that. I think they start around 7:10 a.m. and they'll end at 2, I believe, 2 a.m. or 2 p.m. I'm sorry. Questions from Rain Have Maniquez.
Who issues the learning materials in the school?
So most of the main learning materials, such as the books and the computers, laptops, paper, that's usually provided by the school and the district. But the teacher has to provide everything else, all the little things such as writing materials, posters, any kind of visuals that we need to put up in the classroom. We usually have to provide it. In the beginning of the school year, we'll set up a list of school supplies that students need to bring or have at some point, usually within the first few weeks of school, whether it's their folders, writing materials, all the little school supplies that are essential for that they need to use on a daily basis. Question from Andy Barreiro.
Good day sir, what happens when somebody is late?
When a student is late, they usually just get a warning. But once they are consistently late, we see that you're going to be late several times a week or even once a week, that's when we'll start to contact their parents and explain to them that their son or daughter needs to get to school on time because they're missing an essential part of the lesson, and they're going to fall behind if they're constantly missing out on certain parts of a subject. And last question, I think, from John Patrick.
Thanks, sir. How often do you get homework and projects?
John Patrick asks, how often do you get homework and projects? So a lot of teachers, most teachers, they'll give homework on a daily basis. Elementary, they usually don't give students homework for the weekends. Usually it's Monday through Friday. I've seen a lot of teachers, especially for the younger grades, who gives out homework weekly. So they'll give out a packet on the first day of school on Monday, and a student has to complete it by the end of the week on Friday. As far as projects, it depends on the lessons. Sometimes we'll have one project that takes a whole month to do. Other times we'll have several projects a month. It all really depends on the lesson and what we're learning at that point. Thank you guys for these questions. I hope I was clear in answering these questions and giving you guys a really good idea of how it's like in the schools over here. Hopefully when I get my own classroom, we could have a real teleconference and where you guys could actually communicate and speak and ask questions direct to my students here. Unfortunately, it's going to take a little bit of time, but hopefully by the end of this school year, we'll be able to set something up. We'll set it up with Mr. Kasilag. Thank you for these questions.